Okay, so in the last class, we have seen how we can do the chaining process. Like if you get any response from one API and we can get the data from the response and we can pass the same data to the another API request. So that is basically called as a API chaining. And also we have seen different type of parameters, right? Different type of variables. And we have seen environment variables, global variables, collection variables, and local variables, how to create those variables and how to refer those variables in multiple request and multiple request URL and request body. And that we have seen in the previous classes. Now today we are going to see how we can use data parameters. So data parameters or data variables are nothing but what? We can specify the variables. We can specify the variables and values in external file. It can be CSV file, .csv, or it can be a JSON file. So we will have some data in those files, and then we will use the data as part of our request. Okay, on the fly, on the runtime, we will get the data from the files and we will use it as part of our request. And this is basically data driven testing. So because the data which is getting from the external file, and we will use the same data as part of our request, as part of our HTTP request. So that is basically called as a data driven testing. Okay, so that we are going to discuss today. And before that, let me show you one API and a different type of request. And then we will see how we can do the data driven testing on the same API. So we have something called a books API. Okay, I'll show you the documentation of this books API and how the documentation will be and how we will know the request and how we will know the response and all these things. First, we will try to understand them, and then later we will see how we can create collections and requests for this particular API. So for the books API, so I'm just going to provide one URL for that application. Just a second. Yeah. Sorry. Okay, so this is a URL and simple books API English. This is actual URL of your application books API. And if we just go to this, 1 second, let me put this here. Okay, so this is the actual URL, and inside this URL, we have different type of endpoints. So by using these endpoints, we can access all the APIs from this particular URL. Okay, so I also have a link here. Let me just open this. Just a second. Let me just find out the right page. Okay, so I think it's not this one. I got the documentation from somewhere. Okay, no problem. So let me just share the documentation so that you can understand it. Okay, so this is the documentation of this books API. Yeah, I think someone is being that particular page. Okay, let me open it. Just a second. Actually, that's not the Okay, that is a request type actually, but it's not a website. Okay, so let me just go to the document first, and then we will see how we can use these APIs. Okay, so this is my book API documentation, and you can this is the main URL. Okay, and from this URL, we will able to access all the endpoints. So this books API is having different type of request. So first, let us see what are the request. So which is having two different things. One is books and other one is orders. So we can get the status of the book by sending this get request. This is the endpoint. So how we need to use this endpoints, we have to use endpoint along with this URL. So first we need to capture this URL and a slash, and then we need to put this endpoint. So then you will get the response from the API. So this is the first thing. So get request, and which will return the status of the books, means what, available or not available. And a list of books, this is second request. So this will give you all the list of books which are available. And if you want to get the information about a single book, so we need to send this request, get request. And order. So there is another thing called order, submitting the order and get all the orders, get a specific order. So if you update an order, so if you want to access this order APIs, we need to have a token. So we need to create a token for that, and then we will able to work on these orders. But for books API, for books, getting the information about the books, we don't need any token for that. But if you want to work with the orders, we need to create a token for that. Okay, and you can just look at here, submitting an order. So get a single book. So all the books API don't need any token number, but here we need the token. Submit an order. For this, we need a token. And getting all orders also, we need a token. And get an order, specific order information also, we need a token. And then update an order. So for that also, we need a token. And deleted order. So for order details, we need an API token, and rest of them we don't need. Okay. So this is simple documentation. So I'll provide this documentation and then you can use it. I have found this very useful somewhere in the internet. So you can get it from there. Okay, so once we see how we can send all these requests and how we can validate all the responses, and then we will see how we can perform the data-driven testing on this particular API. Okay, so let's go to Postman 2. Okay, so now open my Postman and let us see how we can create different type of requests for this books API. So let me create a new collection on the my workspace, new and collection. Okay, so I'll name it as a books API. Okay, so inside this, let's create a different type of HTTP request. So the first thing is we need to create a token. For books API, we don't need any token, but we need a kind of authentication to access the orders. So for that, we need to create a token for that. So for that, we need to say API authentication. So how we will get the token? We need to send this request first, post request along with some body. So we need to specify some client name and the client email so that it will automatically create a token number for us. And by using the token number, we will able to access this books API. Okay, so let's try to send this request, and then we will try to create a token number. So that's the first post request. So create a new request, add a new request. And this is a post, right? So what is the name here is, I'm just naming as a create token. So what is the URL for that? So this is the URL. So first we need to copy this entire URL, and then we need to use this endpoint. Let me copy this. Okay, slash, and then we need to specify this endpoint slash API slash clients. And doubles, it should not be double slashes, it should be single slash. Okay, this is the endpoint and this part is complete URL. You can consider this. So this is a post request. And when you send this request, which will automatically create our token, but we need to pass body also because it is a post request. Now go to this body section. And here we need to go to raw and then JSON. And here we have to just pass the same body. So this is the one we need to pass. And the client name, you can give anything. Email ID also you can give anything, no problem. But this is for, I'm saying just for, you can say training. And here I'll say training gmail.com. So you can just give some dummy details here. And once you provided this, let us save and then send the request. So this will create a token for you. So this is your access token, which we need to remember. And this access token we have to use to access order APIs. Okay, just save this one. Okay, now close this request. Now let us create rest of the requests. Now go back. The next one is, first point is getting the status of the book. Status of the books. It will give you all the books information. Let's say status first, /status. So same type of request, same URL, but we need to just change the endpoint. Okay. And this is again get request, not the post request. Let's create a new request. And this is for returns the status of the API. Okay. I'll name it as a status of books. And this is a get request. So the same URL which we have to use previously, whatever URL we have used, same URL, but we need to change the endpoint. So this is the endpoint we have to change. /books. This is the endpoint. Okay. And it's just a get request. We don't need to pass any authentication. Just click on send button. Yeah. So now it is giving the status. Sorry. Yeah. Status, not books. Status. Okay. So status is okay. So that means books are available. Okay. So you can just save it. And the next request is getting the books information. So list of books. If you want to list the books, then we have to send this endpoint with the same URL. And again, it is also get request. So let's create another request, duplicate. And here. So list of books. And here we have to change this endpoint called books. And save this and then execute. So now it is giving some books, and here some information is most important. Here some books are created. Like if I just look at the book ID, 1, 2, 3, 4, totally 4, 5, 6 books are there. And some books are available, some books are not available. So whatever books are available here, and the same books we will able to order. So at the time of sending order request, we have to pass the book IDs which are already available. Okay. So that is the one thing validation we have to do. Endpoints are case sensitive. Let me just check it. Books. No, it is a JSON, right? So JSON is not a case sensitive. So you can specify lowercase or uppercase characters. So no, not the JSON actually. So request is not case sensitive, but the JSON is case sensitive. So these values will be different. Yeah, lowercase and uppercase characters, but URL is not case sensitive. You can just specify anything. Okay. So now we got the list of books and I'm saving the request. And the previous request is what we need to, this is a status of books information, which is just available or not. This is a status. Okay. So let's create the rest of the request. And the next one is get a single book. So if you want to get a single book, then we have to pass /books/book ID. So this colon is not a syntax, so we don't copy as it is. The colon is here representing it is a parameter. Okay, so we need to pass a path parameter. So /books/book ID we have to pass to get the specific book information. So we can just copy the same request, duplicate, and here get a single book. And here instead of /books/ and we have to pass the book ID. I'll say 1. Save and then send it. Okay, so now we got the information about book ID. And later you guys can add validation points. Now I'm not adding any validation, so that this particular API, I'm going to use it for data-driven testing. I will pass the data through parameters. Okay, validations you guys can add for each and every API. Even you can do the chaining process also for this particular API. So this is another request, single book, and which is get request. And then, so these are the 3 APIs, I guess: status, list of books, and get a single book. For these 3 requests, we don't need any authentication, so we can directly use it. But for submitting order or updating order or getting an order, we need an authentication. So for the token, we have to pass. Okay, let's see how we can do this. Submit an order. So to submit an order, we have to send a post request along with this endpoint. And inside the body, we have to specify the book ID and the customer name. So these are the 2 details which we have to pass. So customer name can be anything, but book ID should be available book. So in the first request, status of books, list of books. When you send this request, whatever books are available, and we need to capture the ID of that book, and the same ID we have to pass to create a new order. So now let us try to send this order by using post request, submitting an order. Let's create another request. And this is the post request. And here I'll say submit order and that URL. So first we need to pass the URL and then endpoint. So this is the URL / and then we have to pass /orders. And when you send a post request, we should also pass the body. So you can just go to body section and then raw and select the JSON. And here we have to pass book ID and then customer name. So this is the example body. So we need to just pass it here. So book ID and customer name we can pass. And when you pass this, we need to also provide the token authentication. So let me just create it. First of all, send without token. So it is saying missing authorization header. Authorization header. So we need to pass authorization. So here you can see authorization tab. So directly you can put here. So go to authorization and here select the bearer token. Okay, so whenever use token authentication, we have to select bearer token. This is one of the type of authentication. So select bearer token. So select the bearer token, and here we need to paste the token. So whatever token we generated in the first request, so we need to copy this token, then put here. Okay, so this is a bearer token. And once you specified and save the request one more time, and then click on here, send. Okay, so now it is saying created, it is true, and order ID is also generated. So this is the order ID, which is most important for us because we have to use this order ID to send another request. So this is the order ID we have generated. Now let us save this. And now let's create another request. get all orders. So this will return all the orders, and which is basically get request. And this is also required token. So let's create another request. This is a get request, and here orders. My request name is get all orders. Okay, so we need to get all the orders. Let's say get all orders, and this is a request URL /orders, and we no need to pass anything, just orders /orders, and we don't need any body or anything, but authentication we required. So go to authorization, and here direct token, again same token which is copied here, and then save and then send. So which is displayed all the orders. Currently we created one order, right? So the same order which is displayed. So this is a book ID I have given, this is a name I have given. So the same information is got displayed, and currently this is the only order which we have in the database. And authorization also we specified. And now if you want to get a specific order, so currently we have only one order created. So even if you specify /orders, which is given the only one order which is currently available. And if you want to pass specific order ID, then it will give you order information, same order information again. So this is also get request. Let's create another request. Duplicate and get single order, and the same order, same URL, but here we have to pass the order ID. So we already captured the order ID from the previous request. So we have to pass this order ID exactly same here. And authorization we already given. So this is a get request. So send this. So now we got the same order with the same ID here. This is a one API request which will give you single order details. The next one is update order. So here they have given patch request. So we can send patch request to update the order. And in the body, we can specify the customer name. So only customer name we can update. Only customer name we can update. And this is the basically patch request. So let's create the patch request now. And what is the URL which we have sent here is we have to pass patch orders / and order ID also we need to pass. So along with the orders, we need to also pass order ID, and then we will able to update the customer name. Right. So let's create another patch request, new add request. And this is update order. And this is a patch request. And then provide the URL along with the request ID we have to pass orders / order ID. So this is the order ID which we have created. And authorization, we need to take barrier token, so which is already there, and then save it. And then body also we need to pass. So select the body. So inside the body, we have to select raw. So inside the body, there are multiple options are there, guys. So different type of data we have to pass. So form data, like a form unrecoded, and raw data, binary data, GraphQL. So different sets of data which is supported. So we are just passing the plain JSON data. So that is we can call as a raw data. Raw is nothing but it's a plain JSON file. We don't include anything else. So we have to select the raw. So inside the raw, again, we have a different supported formats are there. Text format, JavaScript, JSON, HTML, XML. So depends on API request. So some APIs will support text, some APIs will support JavaScript, or some APIs will support JSON, HTML, XML. Different type of, we will send the request in the different formats of data. So it depends on how the APIs got designed. So based on that, we have to choose the right option here. But most of the times REST APIs will use only JSON part. Okay, rest of the things are very rarely we use, but JSON is a very popular way of representing the data. So these are all different raw types. So if you don't select the raw, you will not get these options. Okay, so we have to select this raw, and then we will able to see the options. Now select this JSON, and here we have to send name of the person who is ordered that particular book. You can change. Previously, this book is ordered by John. So now we can change the name. So we can just pass this JSON format and go to request body, and customer previously is John. So I'm just changing as Scott. So now we provided the request URL with this patch request, and authorization we provided token and then body section. So now save it and then execute. So this is basically a patch request, which will just update the data. So here we haven't get any response. No, it is saying no content. Let's cross check one second what it is saying. So are we providing orders / patch? Okay. Let me just cross check whether it is updated or not. For that, what we can do, we need to again get a single order information so that we will know exactly whether it is updated or not. So previous request again I'm sending. So it is got updated. Okay, so we are not get proper response, but it is got updated. So it is fine. 204, no content is there. Fine, but it is get updated. So previous it was John, so now it is become Scott. Okay, so this is a update order request. Now save it and then let's create one more order, one more request and delete an order. So to delete an order, we have to pass order ID so that it will automatically delete it. And this is the delete request. So I'm going to create another request. And this is for delete order. Okay, so here we can set the token at the collection level. Okay, that's fine, you can do it. But we don't use the token for rest of the request, right? We will just require the token only for these 4 requests, only order type of request. So that is the reason I have not defined the token number at the collection level. Okay. But again, if you create the token at the collection level, there is one more problem here. I will tell you that problem. So delete order and select the delete request here. And then we have to pass this order ID along with this URL. So then that will be automatically deleted. So whatever request URL we pass to update patch request, same thing we have to pass here. And again, authorization and then bearer token and then specify here. Then save it and then send. So this is got deleted. So 204, no content. So the order is already deleted. So now if I just try to get the order details, it should give error. So it should give error. So no order with this ID. So the order is got deleted. Okay, so now in our request, there are only few requests. We need authorization token, right? If you specify the token at the collection level, or suppose, let me select the collection and here I will define the token variable. Okay. So in this case, and suppose here, I'm just creating a token and this is my value. Okay. So let's copy this token. Initial value, current value. So this is a token which is created at the collection level, right? So once you create it, suppose I just want to use this token in our request. So normally what we will do is we will just go to the request like this. Okay. And here in authorization, select the bearer token. And here we have to specify. So how to specify here in the curly braces, we have to specify here. So whatever token you created, you can just specify the token like this. So the problem here is when you define the token at the collection level, the token is applicable for all the collections. How it is applicable? Because as soon as you selected one request, by default, if you just go to authorization, so you can see there is a type inherit auth from parent. So this option by default, it is selected. So that means what? Whenever you are sending this request, by default, it will take the token from the collection variable, and that is applicable. That's the option. So if you create a token at the collection level, again, you need to modify every request here. You need to modify this request. You can say no auth, you have to select for every request. So that's the reason if your token is applicable for some APIs and which is not applicable for some other APIs, instead of creating the collection variable, so directly go and add that variable or add that token specific to that particular collection or specific to that particular request. Okay. So you can still do that, but there will be again rework is required. So that's the reason just for these three, create an order, update an order, delete an order. So for these requests, I have just added the token at the request level. Okay. So this is how. So let me just added all the requests related to books API. Now, first request is for creating the token. So you have to just execute this only one time. And once you get a token, you have to use it for creation of order, display the order, update the order, and delete order. So only order request, you require that authentication token. And then we have printed status of books and list of books and single book information, get all the books information and everything. So you guys can add all the validation points, test request and pre-request steps, all these things you can add for these APIs, and then you can continue the testing on this books API. Okay, so actually I should give this as an assignment, but you guys can try this. I have sent all the requests. I also shared this collection, upload and share this collection. Just import this on your Postman, then add all the validations for this particular request. Okay. Okay, this is just a moment. So let me 1 second. Okay, so there are multiple ways we can do it. Right? So if you just go to the collection level, okay, so here there are two options, variables and authorization. And if you add this token at the authorization level, if the bearer token, so this is a authentication which is applicable for all kinds of requests. Even though it is not required, it will send this authorization for books also. Okay, and then that will become the problem. So if it's not required, we unnecessarily don't send. So this is one option which is available to specify the token. And if you specify the token here, that is applicable for all the requests other than order. So it will also applicable for all the requests. This is one way we can do it. But if you specify the token here, we no need to go and change the authorization type in every request, because which will automatically inherit the authentication from the collection. This we no need to change. Suppose if you create authorization as a variable, so if we just create a variable here, token, and just provide the token here, we have to refer that variable wherever it is required. In whichever request we require, just go to the request, go to authorization, select the bearer token, and here we can refer. By specifying the curly braces, we have to refer the variable. And that is another way of referring the token. And multiple ways are there. We can use one of the way. Either we can directly specify the authentication or authorization token at the collection level, and authorization tab here we can specify, or else we can create a variable and we can refer that variable in multiple requests. If you don't want to specify token in every request, then you can specify the variable, create a variable, and use that variable in multiple requests. So this is another way we can do it. Even we can specify, we can create variables also to maintain the authentication information. Okay. All right. So this is how books API. So we have just created API request, and you guys can add all the validations to this API. So just add some tests and add some prerequisites wherever it is required, and then try this. Okay. Fine. So now let us see how we can take the data parameters, how we can use data parameters to perform the data-driven testing of this API. So what is data-driven testing here? So the data-driven testing is nothing but what? We can pass the data for request. We can execute the same request with multiple times with the different data sets or different data. Okay, so for example, in the books API, let us say I have taken some order request, submitted order. I want to submit this order with different sets of data. Okay, I want to order multiple books by multiple names. So in those cases, we will have data in the JSON file or CSV file, and then we will use the data to submit the order. And not only single time, we will execute the same request multiple times with the different sets of data so that we will create a different sets of orders. And similarly, we can get the order details. So different order details we can get. So get single order. So this particular request I will send multiple times, I will run with the different order information. Okay, different order information. So now we are going to create something here. So let me just show you how we are going to do the chaining process along with the data-driven testing. So both will be included here, and then listen carefully. So we do chaining process also, and we are mainly taking three different APIs. One is creating an order, and then displaying an order, and then deleting an order. So these are the three requests. We are going to do it now. So how we need to do the chaining process now. So the first thing is we have a post request. Okay, so create an order. This is our post request. Create an order. And once you create an order, we will get an order ID. So we will get an order ID, right? And by using this order ID, we have to first display the order. We have to display the order. This is our get request. And same order ID we have to use for deleting the order. Okay, this order ID is an input. So what we need to do, as soon as you send your post request, we have to create environment variable of order ID. So we have to store this order ID in environment variable. And by using that variable, we will able to display the order ID, order information, and also we will able to delete the order information. This is the way we need to do. So this is called chaining. Now, to send this post request, I will use different sets of data, right? So different book ID and book names I will use. Let's say I will prepare some data here. Let's say I have book IDs, and also I have a different names, customer names. Okay, so I will use this data. So I have, let's say I have 5 different type of inputs here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on. So now I want to execute this whole stuff for different sets of data, and not only single request, not only post request. I want to execute this display request, delete request also for every set of data. So first I will take first input from the file, and then I will send the post request, and then I will get order ID. Then I will display the data and then delete the data. And after that, I'll take another request, another set of data. Then again, I'll do the post request, then get the order ID, then display it and delete it. And similarly, I will take one by one each and every data set from the external file, and I'll send multiple post requests, and I will get multiple order IDs. And every order ID, first we need to display and check it whether it's displayed or not, and we just created. And validations also we need to keep in every request. Every request we have to do validations. So once you send a post request, we will verify the post request is successful or not, order ID is generated or not. And if it is generated, then we have to create as an environment variable, and then we will use it in the display. And after displaying the order ID, the details are correct or not, we have to verify. And after deletion of the order ID also, we have to check the order is got deleted or not, request is successful or not, we need to check. So these are the requests I will execute multiple times with multiple sets of data. And this data currently we support two formats it support. One is CSV format and the other one is JSON format. So these are the two formats of files we can maintain, and then we can pass this data to the requester. These are called data parameters, which we can basically take the parameters from the external files. Okay, now this is the thing we are going to achieve now. We will do step by step. Okay, so first we need post request, and then we need display, and then we need delete. So all three APIs are required. Authentication is required. Okay, and before that we need to also prepare the data. In the CSV file, in JSON file, we will have some data like book IDs and customer name. So accordingly, we will prepare, or we will order different type of books. Okay, so let's do this one by one. And then listen this carefully, and then only you will able to practice. Let me clear this. Okay. So I will also write all the steps here one by one, and then accordingly we will do it. So now go to the Postman, and I will take another duplicate collection. Even collection also we can duplicate, not only request, collection also we can duplicate, and click on three dots here, say duplicate, and it is created another copy of books API. And here I'm just giving some name, books API data driven. This is my collection, and in this collection I'm just trying to remove some request. Create token we don't need. Books APIs I'm just going to delete. List of books, single book. Okay, sorry, we have to display the order details, not a book detail, so we can delete all the books. Submit order we should need, and get all orders, this is also not needed. And get single order, patch is also I'm just deleting, and then delete order. Okay, so these are the three things I'm just going to create. Submit order, and after submission get the order ID, and once you get an order ID, display the order and then delete the order. So these are the three requests I'm taking. And anyway, we have authorization for every request. We already kept authorization. We have to change the body, so later I will change. So these are the currently three requests we have. So as a first step, let us look at the post request. So we are sending the orders, different orders. What this will do, basically it will submit the order, and based on the data which we pass. So this is the data we are currently passing to submit the order. And book ID, whatever book ID we have given, customer name we have given, so this will go and create a new order. Okay, which will create a new order. So now this particular data we have to take from external file. We have to take it from the external file. So we need to prepare an external file. It can be CSV file or it can be JSON file. So first of all, we will see with the CSV file, and then I'll show you with the JSON file. So first we need to prepare the data for that. Let me show you the data. So here I have something called JSON files API test data. So here data is available in my CSV format. So let me just open this in Excel sheet. The CSV file you can still open in Excel file. So Excel sheet, no problem. Yeah, so here I have created some data. You can just look at this. I will just maximize this. Okay, so I have different book IDs and customer name, and make sure these book IDs should be there in your list in the database. So I do not have a second ID. So book IDs 2 is not available. Not available in the sense a record is available, but book availability is not there. If I just go back and see previous request and status of books or list of books, send this request, and then you will know the information. So when I send the books, book ID is available. It is true. Book ID 2 is false, means it is not available. So if book is not available, you cannot order for that book. Okay. And rest of the books are available. So I have not taken this book ID 2 in the list. Only 1, 3, 4, 6 I have taken. And the book names, customer names also I mentioned here. So because these books are available in the database. So this is how first we need to create the data. So once you created this data, we have to pass this book ID, customer names as part of your request. So now go back to your post request, submit order, and here we have to pass this book ID name. So whatever data we mentioned in the Excel sheet or in the CSV file, it is not Excel, guys, it is a CSV file. I just open the same file in the Excel sheet. So book ID and the customer name we have to pass here, because this request we will execute multiple times repetitively based on the number of records which we have in the CSV file. So to get this data in the request, what we have to do is we have to change the format. So here instead of 1, I'm just passing the parameters. I will define the parameters at the runtime. Okay. So here we need to specify exactly the same name, book ID. So whatever the column name which we have given here, the same column name we have to specify. And instead of this, I can just specify. And we need to also keep in the double quotations. Everything we have. This is a parameter which should come from CSV file, data parameter. Okay. And now this is also we have to change. Keep this in the double quotations here. Put everything in the double quotations. And in this, we need to specify the header part. So customer name. This is customer name. Okay, so we need to first change the body according to your headings in the CSV file. So book ID, customer name is my header part. So I just specify them. So this is the first thing we have to do, and then save it. So now what happens is when you run this request at the runtime, we have to browse this file. Okay, we should not specify, we cannot specify this file anywhere else as of now, because currently we are just in the designing part. So at the time of the runtime, when you're running this request, at the time we have to browse this file so that this request will automatically take the data from this file. Okay. So, but in case collection variable or local variable or collect or environment variable, we will define them inside the Postman. But these are the data variables which should come externally from external file at the runtime. So we can't define anywhere. So only thing is we have to just specify the column names in the request. Okay. So suppose if the request is successfully done, so we should also verify that request. So now what we need to go to the test section. In the test section, first we will verify the status code. So how to verify the status code, how to write the statement here, pm dot, guys remember pm dot test, and I'm writing one arrow function here to verify the status code. So I can say status code should be 201. Okay, because it's a post request, so most of the times it will create status code is 201 and comma, and I'm creating a bracket, arrow function I'm creating, and curly braces, and inside this we have to specify pm dot response dot to dot have dot status, and what's the status we are expecting is 201 and semicolon, and curly braces is closed and bracket is also closed, semicolon. Okay, so is the syntax correct? I think this bracket should not be here. Okay, so this is the way we need to have status code validation. Okay. Now, so instead of adding built-in snippet, try to write your own. Okay, because it will become practice for you. In some interview, if anybody asks you to write, you should be able to write the entire function. So if you directly copy paste from the snippet, you can't remember the syntax. Okay, so but initial days, you just do like this, write your own. Okay, so now we just added one validation point just to verify the status code. So inside the body, we already taken raw section. So raw JSON we already taken. So this is the way we can already put everything. So we pass the data parameters, everything is same. Now go to the test, and we have added one test here. Okay, so we have added one test here. And apart from this, we need to do one more thing. Whenever you send this post request, order request, we will get the order ID, right? So that order ID is required for displaying and deleting the request. So displaying and deleting the order, we need an order ID. So when you send this post request, we have to capture the order ID in the environment variable. Okay, we have to capture that ID in the environment variable. So for that, what we need to do, we need to add one more script here. So first we need to capture the entire response from this. And from that response, we have to extract order ID. And that I want to use it for further request. So for that, what we need to do, we need to create a variable. So we need to first create a variable. Let's say from JSON, I'm going to pass it response body. Okay. And what this method will do, it will pass your response body and store them in a variable called JSON data. And I'll create this variable with a var keyword or let keyword or constant, whatever variable you can use it, JavaScript variable. And now from this response body, I want to extract order ID, and that I will again create as an environment variable so that I can use in another request. So how we can create our own environment variable through the script? Remember creating environment variable through script. pm dot environment dot set, environment dot set. Okay, environment dot set. And here we have to specify order ID. We have to create an environment variable. So I'm just creating one environment variable as order ID underscore env. This is the name of the environment variable, order ID. And from where we need to get the order ID? From this JSON data, whatever response we got from that response. So JSON data dot dot order ID. Order ID. So this is a variable. So JSON data dot order ID. So that we need to pass as a second parameter. So this will exactly set environment variable. So what we are doing here, basically, we are sending the post request, and by taking the parameters from Excel or CSV, and then once you get the response, we are validating the status code, and then we are taking the order ID and creating the environment variable. Okay, so the first thing is done. So post request is done. Now save it. We will run this later. Now order ID, we are anyway created this environment variable on the fly on the runtime. Now, based on this order ID, by taking this environment variable order ID, we have to display the order, and then we have to delete the order. So two things we have to do. Now close this request, and now go to the next request. And here, this order ID, we have to get it from environment variable. So we have to remove this order ID. So how to get this order ID from environment variable? We need to specify it here in the curly braces. And what is the environment variable we created? In the previous request, same environment variable we have to specify here. I say order ID underscore environment variable and double curly braces. So this order ID I'm taking from the environment variable. So again, this is the chaining process. So whatever order ID created from previous request, same order ID I'm again using in this request. So this will display the number of books or some number of orders. So once it is displayed the number of orders, then we do some validations. Now go to the test request again, test tab. And first of all, check the status code here. Okay, check the status code. So here we have something called snippet. If you don't want to write anything here, through the snippet, we can directly insert the code. Let me show you how we can insert. Okay, so if I just click on here, this is arrow mark you can see, right? So you can just click on this arrow mark. So you can see some snippets, get an environment variable, get a global variable, get a variable. So many snippets are there. Snippet is nothing but the predefined values. And already those, every method, everything is declared here. Just we need to drag down and many things are there. So you can see here, status code is 200 is there. So you can just click on this. Automatically the snippet is added here. Okay, and then accordingly you have to change the values. So here when you send a get request, what is the snippet you will get? 200 only, obviously. So it is automatically created a function. And arrow function also we can create, but it is basically create a normal function, not an arrow function. Anything is fine. So you can also take the help of these snippets if you want to add any script inside the test or pre-request script. So this is by taking help of snippet, we can just add this here. Okay, so then you can change the values. And after that, this is the one validation 200. Then I want to verify the order ID, right? So whatever order ID we generated in the previous request, by passing the same order ID, we got the details here. We get the response. Now what we need to check in the response, we should have same order ID again, right? In the response also, we should have a same order ID. So that's the validation I'm going to do. See, first we are sending the post request, and what you are getting, we are getting the order ID. And by using this order ID, we are sending another get request. And once you get the response here, in this response, the same order ID should be there or not? Same order ID should be there because we are requested the order information by using the same order ID. So in the response also, we should see the same order ID. So this validation point also we can keep. So in the response also, we are expecting same order ID. In the request, whatever order ID we passed, in the response also, we are verifying we are expecting the same order ID. So now we need to add one more validation point. So how we can add? Let me just add something. Let's say pm dot, I'm again writing one more function, pm dot test. And here, I'm just checking. Let me write some description. Check order ID present in the response body. Okay, this is a description I am giving. So now I'm writing the function. So pm.test, check order ID present in the response body. That's my description of my test. And then so body, comma, and arrow, and curly brace. And inside this, we have to specify the validation. So first we need to get the response from the JSON. So I can say PM dot response dot JSON. So this will return entire response body into a variable. I say JSON data, and this is JSON data is a variable. So I can just define this as a var keyword. And from this JSON data, we need to check the ID is exactly same. In this JSON data, we can verify order ID same or not. So how we can verify that? We can simply say pm.expect validation point, pm.expect, and here JSON data dot ID, JSON data dot ID, and it should be equal to our environment variable ID. So dot to dot equal, and here we need to take this is the ID we are capturing from the response, and we need to compare this from order ID, which is created as an environment variable, right? So now dot to equal, how to capture the environment variable now? How to get environment variable value here? Okay, so how we will get the environment variable? In the previous request, we have created environment variable through the script. Now we need to extract the data from the environment variable through the script. So I can say pm dot environment dot get, right? Get. Inside this, we have to specify the environment variable. So what is the environment variable we created? Order ID underscore env. This is the environment variable we created, and close these brackets and semicolon, and close the curly brace, and one more bracket and semicolon. Okay, so this is how we need to put another validation. So first validation is what? Request is successful or not. 200 status code is not. So second validation is what? Order ID, which is whichever order ID we have passed as part of get request. In the response also, we should say able to see the same order ID, and that we have taken from environment. So here also we are taking from environment variable, and here also we are taking from environment variable. So it should be same. In the response, we should get exactly the same. So this is a get request we sent, and also we have validated. So this request will execute based on the response provided by previous request, because in the post request submit order will generate the order ID, and the same order ID we are using in the second request. Okay, now save it. Now go and create another request. Delete request, delete order. So in the delete order also, we have to take this request ID from the same environment variable, right? So let's do that. So can just remove this hard-coded value. Now I'm taking from the environment variable. So here I'll say order ID underscore env. So this is my environment variable. And when you delete the request, do we need to pass any body for that? Not required. Authorization anyway, it is there. Body is not required, but we need to add some validation. Go to the test tab. So here I'm adding the status code. So how we can add status code? Through snippet. So go to snippet here. So you can see here, if you just click on this arrow mark, you will get the different snippets. So you can, from the snippet, you can just use any of the snippet. So here status code is 200 is there. So all other snippets also there. Let's take this and modify accordingly. So here I'm expecting status code should be 204. After deletion, you will get 204. So I'm just changing it 204. Okay, so after deletion of this order, then we got this status code and we verified. And after that, I want to delete the environment variable. The order ID I don't need. So even order ID, the request is got deleted, right? So order is got deleted from the database after sending this request. After deletion of this order, we don't need order ID in the environment variable, right? So why we maintain environment variable order ID? Because we want to send another request. So when you're submitting order, we are maintaining the order ID as an environment variable, so that the same environment variable we are using in the get single order and delete order. So once you send these two requests, order is also got deleted, then we don't need environment variable, right? So we can just delete the environment variable through the script after sending the delete request, after validation is done. So let me just delete the environment variable. So how to delete the environment variable? Simply we can unset it. PM dot environment dot unset. And here we have to specify the environment variable. What is that? Order underscore ID, order ID underscore environment. So this will automatically unset environment variable. Okay, done. So whatever we have discussed earlier, so we have everything is achieved. Now the save request. Still we have not sent any request. We have just created the request as per our requirement. So now let me repeat once again. So first request is what? Submit order. So at the time of submit order, we have sent post request, authorization is required. And then body is also required. But in the body, I'm using some variables here. And these variables will get the data from the external file, data variables. And how this will know about that file at the runtime, we have to specify. Okay, I'll show you how to execute this request with the different sets of data at the runtime. So here we have to replace with hard-coded values into variables. And we also added two test script. One is for code validation, status code validation. The other one is for taking the order ID and create that order ID as an environment variable so that we can refer the same order ID in the next two requests. There's the first one. So next one, get single order. So here we are referring the order ID environment variable, whatever we created the previous request. And we are sending this get request, and as part of response, we are validating status code, and also same order ID is present or not in the response we are validating. And the last one is delete order. So here also we are taking environment variable order ID and deleting an order and verifying the status code, and also deleting the order ID environment variable, unsetting order ID environment variable. So now the chaining is also done. So now the next last task is we should able to run this entire collection. That means all three requests multiple times with multiple sets of data. Okay, multiple times with multiple sets of data, we have to run it. So now what we need to do, we need to just run the collection. And before that, make sure you have proper data here. Okay, how many data sets I have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 records are there. So now my collection should execute 5 times. Okay, my collection should be executed 5 times. Now let me just close my CSV file, or you can just close this CSV file and then execute your collection, not the specific request. We have to execute entire collection because these requests are internally linked, right? So now go and run the collection. So click on three dots here, and you can see one option called run collection. Click on the run collection, and here a few important options which are very important. So what are the collection we want to execute here? By default, they are selected. Okay. Now here, these are the options which we have to understand. Iterations. Iterations means what? How many times we want to execute this entire collection. So it depends on how many number of records which we have. Suppose in a CSV file, I have 5 records, 5 inputs are there. So when you say 5 here, then it will take all 5 inputs and our collection will execute 5 times. And each time it will take different sets of data. Suppose I have 5 records in my CSV file, but I want to take only 3 records. Only first 3 I want to execute my collection. Then I can specify 3 here. Or I want to execute with only 1 record set. Then I can say only 1 here. Okay, depends on your requirement. You can specify number of iterations. Okay, so for now I have 5 different records in my CSV file, but still I'm just specifying only 3. Later I will try to increase it. So currently I'm just running my collection 3 times with 3 different data sets. Now the delay. So delay is nothing but the time between each and every request. So better to have 2-3 seconds, milliseconds time between each and every request, because sometimes if the server is properly not responding quickly, there may be some issues in the request. You may not get proper response. So better to just give some milliseconds. Let's say 3 or 4 milliseconds, that is fine. And here we have to select the data file. So on where we will maintain the data, external file, that we need to select from here. Select file, click on select file, and then we need to browse it. So we need to go to C drive, and wherever you kept that file, you need to browse the CSV file. So here, and JSON files, API test data. I'm now browsing the CSV file. Now open it. So now I have specified the file here at the runtime. Okay. Now, once you specified the CSV file here, then you can see one option called preview. So if you have any issues in the CSV file, it will show error here. When you click on the preview, you should get exact data like this. So actually book ID customer name is coming from what? Our CSV file. These iterations are default generated by Postman. This will execute in the first iteration. This data will be taken in the second iteration. And this will take from the third iteration. This will fourth one and fifth. Totally 5 iterations, 5 different sets of data. It will automatically take. But we have specified here only 3 iterations, for example. Then only first 3 will be taken. Now, if we just click on the preview here, again, it will show you 5, but at the runtime, it will take only 3. Depends on how much value we have specified. And this option is very useful. If you have any error in your CSV file, if your data is not properly aligned, so this you will not get proper preview here. Okay, so before sending the request, before running the collection, please cross-check your data is correctly aligned or not. Okay, so now click on the preview. So here, so book ID. So book ID is, what is the data type of book ID? Book ID. We specified as a number. We specified as a number. Let me just check it. Book ID. So book ID is a number, okay, not a string. Book ID is a number. Okay, so now let's try to run the collection. So now we have run the collection. So here we specify 3 iterations. Currently 5 records are there, but I'm just running only 3 for now. In the next iteration, I will run 5. So 3, and I'm giving some delay time is also 3. And I have browsed my CSV file here. And we also see in the preview, and then directly run books API data driven. So I'm just clicking on this. And before that, you can also open your console window and you can cross check the results are correctly coming or not. Okay, so what you can do is, let me just minimize this. You can see here console, right? So click on the console and clear everything, because if there are any issues, we can clearly see in the console window. So now I'm just running books API data driven. So observe what will happen. So I'm just clicking here. Now first iteration is completed. Now second iteration is completed. Now third iteration is also completed. So you can see here, this is representing the first iteration. This is representing the second iteration, and this is a third iteration. Green is nothing but everything is got passed. So now if you expand one by one, so go to post request, and it is passed. Status code 201 is got passed. Now get request 200 request is passed, and also we have successfully saved the order ID. And in the delete request, 201 or 204 status code is getting, and it is got passed. So 3 requests we have sent, and all 3 got passed, and only 3 iterations we have run. Now this time I want to run 5 iterations. So for that, what you can do, if you just click on this run again it will run 3 iterations. One more time it will run. But I want to create a new run. This time I will run 5 times, because we have a 5 different type of data. So click on the new run here. And now you'll get the same window. And this time I'll increase the 5 iterations, and delay time, let it be there. And the same file, CSV file. And now click on the run API and clear the console before that, and just run it. So first iteration is completed. Now second iteration, third iteration, fourth iteration, and then 5 iterations. So 5 iterations, 5 times it is executed, 5 times it got passed. So if you want to check what is an order ID it is generated, and what is order ID, on what basis it is displayed the order details, data order. If you want to see the detailed information in the console window, you can see it. So post request, how many times it is executed? This is 1 time, and a second time, third time, fourth time, and fifth time. 5 times you can see the post request here. Okay, and here you can just look at this. This is the response body. Created is true, order ID is, this is the order ID which is generated. Now with the same order ID which is passed through get URL, you can just look at here. Same order ID is got passed here. Right, so you can just go through each and every request, and you can just analyze the data, what exactly it is taken. Okay, so this is how we can just prepare the data, and accordingly we send the data to the request. So if I just go and show me the Excel sheet, why I have taken same book numbers here? Because same book can order by multiple people, right? Is there any possibility there or not? Suppose same book can order by two people. So John is ordered same book, Kim is also ordered the same book. So that's the reason I have taken same book numbers. If you want, you can take another book numbers, no problem. Okay, got my point. So data, you have to design your own. So that is up to you how you prepare the data, but the data should be valid. And before preparing the data, please cross check. The names can be anything you can prepare, but the book IDs you have to capture from the database. So before that, you have to run this request. Books API, you can just run this request, list of books, so that you will know exactly what are the books are available, what are the books not available in this database. Now you can just look at here book ID 1, which is available, so that I can specify in my data here. And if I just look at the second book is not available, availability is false. So book number 2 is not available, which availability is false. So I cannot specify this in the data. So before specifying the data or before preparing the data, please cross check books are available or not, and then only you will be able to send order request. Okay, so this is how we can perform the data driven testing, or by using data parameters, we can achieve this. Now let us try to do the same thing for using JSON file. Okay, so let me show you that. So nothing is changed, everything is same. Only thing is a file will be changed. So if you have a file in the CSV format, we can easily convert that into JSON file. There are so many online tools also there. You can just check it. Okay, convert CSV to JSON file. You can just browse it. There are so many web pages, so many applications are there. You can convert easily CSV file to JSON. If I just take anything here, and you need to just browse the file here, CSV file, and automatically that will give you here JSON format. So let me just browse my CSV file. So I'm browsing my CSV file, open, and once it is done, so then you can see the JSON format here. Same CSV data is representing in the JSON format. So you can now save this data in another file, or else you can just save, download, and then it will automatically download JSON data. Right. So now let me I already have JSON file which is created. You can just look at here. This is my JSON file, which is also having same data, 5 records. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 records are there. And now just I want to pass this JSON data for data-driven testing. Okay, now go to the Postman again. Right, so here we no need to change anything, same everything. We no need to pass we no need to change any data also inside the body. Everything is same, but at the runtime we have to select JSON file. So let's run this collection. Okay, run collection, and here iterations 5 times I want to execute. I say delay time is something called 3, and select the file. And here this time I'm selecting JSON file. I say open. Now click on the preview. So this will help you if you have any issues in the file, if the data is not properly aligned. And here you can check it. If you get the proper preview here, that means your data is correctly aligned. Then close this and then run this. So now it is executing first iteration, second, and then third iteration, fourth iteration, and then fifth iteration. So now 5 times total executed with 5 different sets of data. And if you want to see the clear results, you can just click on this view results. If you click on it, it will show you the clear picture. So you can just look at this. So post request, get to delete. This is the first iteration, iteration 1. Now just come down, and this is iteration 2. Iteration 2, again 3 requests are executed, post, get, and delete. Now iteration 3, again 3 requests are executed, and iteration 4, again 3 requests are executed. Totally 5 iterations of data executed. And every request, it will show you the request type and the name of the request and which URL we have sent and what's an output or a response, everything it will show you clearly. So this is the complete summary of your results. Okay, so pass 20 because altogether 5 iterations we have run. Every iteration we have some validation points, right? So it is counted every validation point from every request, and totally it is 20 are there. So totally 20 it is getting shown. And if there is any failure is happen, it will show you under failed and skip tags. Otherwise, it will execute everything is fine. Okay. So guys, can you see my Postman window? I think I have maximized. Okay. Right. So these are the final results. And you can just close this once again, and then we will able to execute. So one more time, I'm executing, run collection, and here all equal, and how many times of iterations we want to take, and delay time you can specify, and select file and JSON data I'm selecting, and everything is fine, and then run it. So totally how many iterations are executed in each iteration, how many requests I have taken, how many are got passed, failed, everything will be shown in here. So you can just click on here. View summary means it will go to summary result. And if I click on view results, it will clearly show you all the results. So just you need to browse these options. Okay, so we can also export these results in the report format. We can see so many other things also we can do. I will show you that report and everything in the next sessions. So we can also export these results in the JSON format. And we can also analyze the results. We can compare the results. A lot of things you can see. So this is all about data parameters, data-driven testing using data parameters along with the chain. So everything is implemented in one API. Okay. So now what is your job is, first you have to try this books API, all the request, and put different validation points and every request. Validations in the sense, first you need to check status code in every request. And after that, response body also you need to check. And if any order ID is created, just try to create some environment variables. And if possible, try to do some chaining also. And whatever concepts so far we discussed, you can apply every concept and then complete this API. So this is just for your assignment. You guys can try this. Okay, I will share the document also. I'll share this document, and also I have another document. I'm also going to share this data-driven testing document. So this is also data parameters using JSON and CSV. And I will also share this document and go through this and do it step by step. Okay. And don't club everything together. So just practice the things step by step in whichever sequence I have followed, the same sequence, follow it and then try it. You will not face any issues. Okay. So this is all about data parameters and using data-driven tests. So data parameters are nothing but what? The parameters or data variables also. We can call them as a parameters or variables, whatever. And we can take them from external file. Okay. So try this for today's session, and tomorrow we will continue the rest of the things. Okay, I'll stop here for today's session. We will continue tomorrow.